Hi, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Filling Your Cup. This is one of your hosts, Calvin.
And I'm your other host, David.
And today we're going to talk about why you should use a credit card. Although it's common sense, but not everyone uses a credit card. They carry cash, they carry debit cards, and we're going to tell you why you should carry or open up a credit card and use that instead. So take us off, Dave.
All right, so one of like the difference of using a credit card and debit card is the liability exposure, right? Because when you use a credit card, the exposure is on the bank, right? The banks you're borrowing the bank's money to pay for your expenses, right? So in reality, your money is not being exposed to the market. It's the bank's money, right? But when you use a debit card, that your money is actually being exposed. So if there is like a fraudulent charge and you're like disputing that charge, that money will get locked up in the dispute. And if you happen to need to use that money for like an urgent charge or urgent bill, then you're kind of out of luck because that money is locked up and you can't use it. So that's like one reason why you should use a credit card because it's not your money that's being exposed. Secondly, you cannot build credit with a debit card. Purchases made with a debit card do not help you build credit. When you use a debit card, the funds are automatically taken from your checking account. So essentially, you're paying with cash. So yeah, bank don't report these debit card transactions to like the big three reporting agencies. So this won't help you build your credit. The way how it works is you gotta borrow money and pay it back. That shows your credit worthiness, right? But if you're just paying it with cash, debit card is basically paying with cash. There's no really exposure. There's no risk. There's no risk involved, so you're not building any credit. All right. So Calvin, what are 5 reasons for keeping a high credit rating?
All right. So, reason number one, credit can affect where you live. So, I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer, in order to buy a house, you need to borrow money unless you're making that big money and pay everything cash. So, smart to borrow money from the banks anyway, so you don't have to use up all your cash reserves. Um, so the banks will want to know if you're able to pay it back, and one reason or one thing they look at is your credit history, your credit score, making sure you've been diligent with your payments, no late payments, and things that can affect negatively affect your credit score. Um, so if you have a high credit rating or high credit score, it's easier for the banks to trust you and give you a better loan, a lower interest rate, a higher loan, so you can borrow more money. Um, and with that, you could buy a better house in a better neighborhood and affect where you live. Um, and vice versa, if you have a poor credit history, if you have a low credit score, the bank's not going to give you money. They could deny your loan application, or they could give you money, but you're going to have a bad rate. They're going to jack up the interest rate, and you'll be paying more per month or compared to the person who has a good credit score. So number two, auto loans, same thing, same thing. So if you're buying a car, that's another big money purchase that most people will make. An automobile, same concept. If you have a high credit, you'll get good rates to buy the car of your dreams. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Get a good high credit rate. What's the next three, Dave?
So yeah, credit checks for employment, right? So your some employers these days they do run like a credit check on your on top of your background check, and this is kind of like to check. They don't really check your credit scores per se, but they do check your credit report, which will list all the I guess the misdemeanors that you have, right? So like, if you didn't pay this bill or if you owe these creditor this bill, they will see all of that. And although that's not that also affects your credit score, this also affects of your employment. But I mean, this is kind of like a little different. It doesn't really affect your score. Just kind of like pay off all your debts. Like if you owe debts, just pay it off because that itself will affect your employment, not really the credit score itself. But it is something to know. You know, like you should keep a good credit score for employment purposes. So business loans, right? Business loans like any other loan, home loan, car loan, it might even have more scrutiny because this is a business loan, which is already screaming risk to the banks, right? Because a home loan, at least you're living in the home. The risk of you not paying the loan back is a little less than someone just say, "Hey, I have this new business idea. I want to open up a restaurant. Loan me some money." If you have really bad credit, they're gonna be the banks are most likely less compelled to give you money or loan you money. So that's why you need a good credit score for to start business because not everyone starts off with like backing of wealthy parents or wealthy relatives that can like loan you money. A lot of times they need to borrow from the bank, and in order to do so, you do need good credit. And also, living expense can require good credit because this is shocking to me that utility companies they will actually do a credit check. Like so, before they turn on your electricity, they want to see if you have good credit. That's kind of wow. I did not know that they do this, and I'm sure they do this in kind of like the rural areas in the country. They might not even do it in the big cities where it's kind of like you know it's not really needed here. But like like in other poorer places, I would say where there's high poverty, they might do a credit check on you to see if you qualify for utilities. So I mean, you can see how that without utilities you can't really live. So I was like another reason why you should have a good credit score because apparently they do check this in some places. So Calvin, what are some perks of said credit cards?
Glad you asked. Let me tell you. So the first one is extended warranty. So for example, if you buy a fancy new iPhone, it should come with like a 1 year warranty from the manufacturer. But the by purchasing the iPhone with your credit card, they give you like an extra, couple months or several months, depending on your credit card, after the manufacturer's warranty. So if anything goes wrong, you just go back to your credit card company and say, "Hey, it broke," and they'll hopefully they'll pay you back for it or something. Airline miles, same thing. If you purchase airfare tickets um, with your credit card, you could rack up miles, and with that, you could upgrade seats. You could uh, get free plane tickets if you rack enough points and things like that. So that's another perk. If you travel a lot, cash back 1 to 6%. Um, so most major credit card companies will give you money for spending their money. So for example, just a trip to Costco. I feel like every trip to Costco, you walk out with at least $100 worth of items. So up to $6 by cash back just to go in Costco or buy things, groceries or anything you need in life. Cash rewards. Most credit cards company will give you money for as an incentive to open up an account with them. So, for example, credit card Chase will give you like $350 back um, for spending like a couple $1,000s within the first 3 months after opening an account. So if you have a big purchase coming up, open an account, open a credit card and reap the benefits. Access to airport lounges. So again, another traveling perk. If you're waiting for a long flight, you could go into these lounges. They give you free food, free alcohol, and make sure you're nice and relaxed and cozy right before your trip. Car rentals insurance, same thing. Another traveling perk. If you're renting a car outside of the city you live in, deny the collision insurance because your credit card will already have it. Safety. All right, so uh, for safety, credit cards they give you a pretty high limit. So depending on your income, they give you like a credit line of like 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, as much as you make. So Imagine carrying $15,000 worth of cash in your pocket, right? If that gets stolen, it's gone. Going back to your fraud slide previously, but you could have that $15,000 in a little bit of card, little piece of plastic card that you could lose, and then you just report it, and that you won't be liable for the credit or for the fraud. So safety is a big issue, and it's convenient. You could have all that amount of cash in that one piece of plastic card. And the grace period, so you don't have, so the money you spend out of cash or credit debit card, it takes from your account like instantly. With the grace period, you don't owe the money you bought or you made, the purchases you made, you don't owe your credit card until that due date. So like looking back at our previous videos, it's good to save money for the rainy day, and have cash in your bank just saved up.
Yeah, and that's basically a loan, right? When you use a credit card, you're using a loan from the creditor. And of course, we're not saying get a credit card just so you can spend lavishly. That's not the whole reason. The reason is, one, you do need to build credit because all the biggest expenditure in your life, it requires a good credit. It doesn't really require a good credit, but then if you want to get a good rate on any of your purchase, you need a good credit score for you to get a good rate. Otherwise, you'd be paying more for really no reason why, right? It's something that you can control. And the grace period is pretty awesome, right? Because like even though everybody's living paycheck, right? Like this when you could buy something now that you need, and when you get your paycheck, you can pay off your credit card bill. That's kind of what the grace period is. If you're strictly just say because we know Dave Ramsey, he's really big on no credit cards and only debit cards and pay cash everything. If you live like that, it's really, it just feels really restricted per time, because then you could budget really well with a credit card. It's the same thing as if you were using cash. It's just your form of payment is different, and you just gotta realize that credit cards, you treat it like cash. It's basically like cash that you don't need to front up now. It's cash you pay up later. So we're really big. Like everyone uses a credit card. I'm not everyone who wants to build credit needs to use a credit card. And I don't really see any reason why, if you are a responsible individual, why you will not have a credit card. Because first of all, you're basically getting a free loan as long as you pay the balance in full monthly, and you're building credit for your future. When you want to buy a house, a car, or whatever, or start a business and get a business loan, you need a good credit in order to get these, to take advantage of these opportunities, right? So, end of the day, if you are a responsible individual whose budgets, perfectly every month, just use a credit card. There's no reason why you should not be using a credit card. And you do get all these additional perks like Count was talking about, right? And I think like maybe next video we'll talk about like the different type of credit cards that you can get, because there are so many type of cards, and depending on what you use it for the most, there's so many more benefits. Because like if you fly a lot, it might make sense to get a airline credit card because you're getting more mileage, right? And if you convert those mile points to the flight mileage, you get more for bang for your buck versus getting like a cashback or something. And maybe we can do a video on that next. But yeah, account. Is there any reason why you should not use a credit card? I'm not. Beside, if you're like one of those like a addict that likes to like gamble money or whatever, whatnot. We're not talking about those individuals. We're talking about like if you are a straight shooter, pay your bills on time, stick to your budget. Is there any reason why you should not use a credit card?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not. But the key word you said was responsibility. Responsible adult. Make sure you're responsible with the money, with the plastic card, because it's swipe. It could add up quick. And make sure you're, like you said earlier, make sure you're on time with those payments. If you are not, that could negatively affect your score. They could charge a high interest rate. Usually credit cards have a high interest rate. As they offset
20 to 30%, which is it's worse. It's almost like loan sharks, but
yeah.
But the biggest point is you just got to budget. Budget how much you're gonna be spending, and then that's how much you're gonna be spending on your credit card, and then it's really about budgeting when it comes to this. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have to budget regardless. And that you can follow Dave Ramsey's steps because he has a really big he's really big on budgeting, and he has a really good tools for you to use to learn how to budget. And so yeah, any closing thoughts, Calvin?
Please like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. How are you?
Yeah, it's likewise. We're not sponsored by any credit card companies, but we know the power of credit cards, right? And sometimes if you're in a pinch and you really need some money to cover whatever urgent expenses, you may not have cash to cover for it, and you might have to pay. This is kind of like if you really have to, the credit card balance is there for you to use, and hopefully you can, you just gotta be able to pay that back at when the money is due. But that is a lifeline, man. That additional money can really save you when you're in a pinch. And I think a credit card gets a really bad rep because a lot of people misuse it and they get into all these debt. But then, end of the day, man, credit card is such a powerful tool to help grow your wealth. Help build and grow your wealth. And yeah, of course, like always, please like, comment, and subscribe, man. We'll catch you guys in the next video.